Apple and Google to integrate next. That's humility. Focus is focus upon your core value proposition, store of value. Humility is accept the fact that Amazon, Facebook, Apple, and Google might have some asset that you don't have and accept their help. And then harmony is don't thumb your nose at the federal government or the tax authority or the regulators, right? Taxation is not theft. At some point you can say affectionately, tongue in cheek, inflation is theft. You might get away with that. I think you cross the line when you say taxation is theft, right? And I think if we're going to live in harmony with the regulators and harmony with the government, then we have a chance to achieve the $250 trillion value proposition. If you're a crypto anarchist and you hate everything about the world, my advice to you would be make Bitcoin successful, make it worth $250 trillion, and your Bitcoins that you bought for $1 will make you richer than Jeff Bezos. And when you have $200 billion of your own money, then you can go and found your own country. And you can be a crypto anarchist or go to Mars and declare, you can do whatever you're going to do. But first, get the money. First, be successful at the one thing you can be successful. And I think that's the lesson I learned. There are a lot of people much more successful than me in business, obviously, right? Amazon, Apple, Facebook, Google. Like, it's not hard to figure out who they are. They're on the front page, right? And more power to them. I think that that my experience has just given me an appreciation for focus, humility, and harmony. And when you have a good thing, like don't screw it up. And if there's a biological metaphor for you, it's a chambered nautilus. If you look at a chambered nautilus, it's nature's solution to growth under pressure. It starts small, and then it wraps around itself. It builds a shell twice as big again, twice as big, and geometrically it creates this golden triangle or golden mean. And it's always using its past assets as the superstructure, the foundation for its next expansion. And it grows 10,000 feet down, right? Under pressure, underwater pressure. If you have massive pressure on you from all directions all the time, how should you grow? You should grow like a spiral out, right? Because you don't want to reach beyond your fingertips because you will be smashed or broken. And the chambered nautilus is a stable growth structure under pressure. And I think we can learn a lot from that when we're thinking about how the industry evolves and how you evolve any particular business or product or service. We all mature, right? And again, success and failure in life gives you humility, and you can get perspective on things. And so when you're going through things early on, you don't always see them as clearly as when you've got a little bit of hindsight and a little bit of experience. The world is different today too. For example, 20 years ago, if you got on TV, you got 90 seconds for a soundbite and they cut you off. Journalist gets to interview you, and then they get to pick what they're going to say, and they get to wrap it with their opinions about what it means. And if they want to quote, they can get 100 quotes, cherry pick the 2 quotes that they want, run with that, and represent that to be a statistical sample of the world, right? It's kind of skewed against the person being written about or the entity being written about to the benefit of the journalist that has the megaphone, right? I would say today, 20 years later, journalists still have a lot of power, but there's a lot more outlets for information. So you don't just have 2 newspapers or 3 newspapers and 2 networks to watch. There's a lot of places you get information. And I would say the arrival of long form interviews like YouTube that get posted on YouTube and also short form video on Twitter, and then Twitter in general, it means that you have a deeper, more multifaceted communication channel. And if you wanted to communicate a message, you have more ways to communicate it. And I feel like the world tends to generate or carry more of the message in higher bandwidth now than it did, right? Back then you could have written anything you wanted and characterized my opinion about what I meant when I said it, and I don't get a rebuttal. Either retract, correct, clarify, or elaborate on anything that was written about me by anyone. And that's a frustration of any public figure in that time frame. I've had people write stories which were just wrong about me in the crypto community. What happened was one journalist actually said, "Why do you like Bitcoin?" And I said, "I like it because it's liquid 24/7, 365, and you can get a bid on it any time of the day. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing else like it where you could actually liquidate $100 million, if there's a better altcoin, by the way," something like that. And, if an altcoin has a better yield. And then another person wrote on that, and there were 4 stories that came out in rapid succession, like a game of telephone, of which there was no truth to any of them. Mm-hmm. So just 20 years ago, I would have sat and simmered, and just been irate. This year I get on Twitter and I say, there's no truth to any of these things. Click, and all the Bitcoin Twitter cyber hornets go off on the journalist. It is like, there is some responsibility or accountability now, if you're a journalist, to at least properly represent what the person said. And I think that's resulted, to a certain degree, in more responsible behavior, and it allows for people to get their message out more. I would say that today, I'm aware more of how things might be interpreted, and so I avoid opining on things that aren't my business. If you had $1 billion at risk, or you could make $1 billion, you might spend an hour. So for those people, it would be irrational for them to make any decision based on a tweet that I made. And I would think that if they're really rational, then they'll spend the hour, and then they'll tell everybody that works for them to spend the next 10 hours, and then they'll come to a collective decision. I think that right now we're just in a situation where a lot of people still aren't focused. I mean, there's still not really, there's so much noise, and they've got so many other things on their plate that they haven't really focused upon this as an extraordinary engineering breakthrough that's going to change the course of humanity. I don't think that Paul Tudor Jones or Stanley Druckenmiller or Bill Miller are really focused on it based upon what they've said.